The 2023 general elections are now a matter of weeks than months away, and the campaign trail of the various political parties have been crisscrossing the length and breadth of the country, soliciting for the votes of Nigerians. The provisions of the Electoral Act 2022 have made the 2023 election campaigns longer than normal for the political parties and their candidates, meaning they have longer time to sell their manifestos to Nigerians and woo the electorate. What are the dominant issues shaping the campaigns so far? And is the peace accord signed by all the political parties having any impact on the campaigns, which formally commenced since 28 September 2022? We shall bring various perspectives on the 2023 election campaigns on 30 Minutes today. My name is Mitaire Ikpen, welcoming you to 30 Minutes on NTA News 24. And as always, the clock is ticking. Now, as the campaigns heat up ahead of the 2023 general elections, some Nigerians feel the manifestos and messages by the various political parties have been drowned by the carnivals and merrymaking that have characterized the campaigns so far. What has been the quality and content of the campaigns and messages emanating from them? Let's find out in this first report by Lydia Sampson.
Isaac David Michael is a young geologist who is passionate about ensuring peaceful conduct of the 2023 general elections in Nigeria. He's determined to pass his message through proactive engagement of youths by identifying common grounds he believes cut across differences globally. He says the youth are at the heart of every successful process, be it political or development. He's optimistic that positively engaged youths can set agenda for the 2023 elections by saying no to violence.
I'm 101% against violence in politics. You know, if you refer back to the previous times, you see that violence has never brought a good solution. It will rather bring the wrong governance into the country. And take, for instance, at the end of everything, you see some people leaving themselves being injured, some of them paralyzed, some of them find themselves in situations they never expected to be. So there is no way that violence will drive us to the right direction which we intend to go. So I am highly against violence, and I encourage my fellow youths as well to desist from it. Whatever they might have promised you will never stand. It's just for their own selfish gain. So I encourage everybody like me, not just the youths, even the elderly ones, to desist from violence.
Now, the much-awaited election will coincide with 24 years of uninterrupted democracy, the longest in the country's history. Already, agencies like the Center for Democracy and Development have predicted 2023 elections will most likely be the most challenging to conduct in Nigeria due to the raging security and political violence unfolding across the country and preparedness of the electoral body, INEC.
The question we are asking is, as you prepare for the election, for voting, how do you prepare to deal with political criminals who will manipulate the process? How do you prevent the political murderers who want to kill Nigerians because they want to rule? This has to do with enlightening the people on the provisions of the Electoral Act. Killing and murdering and manipulating the electoral process are all within the electoral offenses segment of the Electoral Act 2022. How many Nigerians are aware of those provisions? So our view is that the non-state actors who are the electors or the voters need to equally be prepared. The security agencies are developing the capacity of their people. INEC is developing the capacity of their staff. Political parties are developing the capacity of their party agents. Now, who monitors what will happen during the election? Yes, there are observers, but the issue is, how are the voters or electorates, their own capacities developed to be able to monitor those who manage the election to ensure that offenses are reduced, minimized, or even not seen?
Also, the conduct of presidential candidates are expected to shape the outcome of the polls. Experts say the credibility of the 2023 general election will depend on the degree to which citizens can vote freely without stress.
If you see also all the candidates that have come out, There are people that are passionate about this country. There are people that believe they have something they can offer. But then, when you look at the array of people that brought themselves forward, it is now up to Nigerians to now look at what has been happening and see, can we continue with the way we are doing things? Hasn't time come for us to now step back and think and say, like the saying goes, you can't be doing the same thing the same way and expect a different result. So perhaps Nigerians, more than ever before, would now be looking for something different from what we have been doing all along. And that is the kind of person that they are going to elect as their next president.
They reiterate that insecurity remains a critical issue, challenging the operation of INEC, with some INEC offices burnt down in some parts of the country. The prevailing structural, infrastructural, and the cultural ecosystem in which the polls will take place is believed to have been compromised. Stakeholders agree prompt release of the full INEC budget could help in mitigating some of these issues, as adequate and timely funding is at the heart of quality elections.
I think the essence of the peace accord is for us to have a peaceful and credible transition. But unfortunately, as time has shown, politicians and political parties have not adhered to it. If you look at the 2019 election report on violence, over 535 persons were killed in that election. Preceding the elections, about 135 on election day proper. And here we are again heading towards 2023. We've had pockets of violence here and there in some states where the ruling party has targeted the main opposition. And generally, besides the physical violence, there have been online violence and bullying, and that is very dangerous. Politicians are very intemperate. The use of language has been in the extreme, you understand, sometimes bordering on personal attacks and not on issues of policies or agenda.
The role of security agencies as unbiased arbiters and subsequently the judiciary is important in determining the credibility of the election as that of the election management body. It is therefore understandable that calls on the security agencies to act professionally and impartially in dealing with insecurity and political conflict resonates across political parties. Insecurity, they admonish, must not be used as a tool to serve political interests by deploying political talks to perpetrate activities such as voter suppression in any part of the country.
It's quite a challenge, but there are laws and the security agencies can play their role. For instance, the violence that goes on online, on the internet, can be tackled using the cyber crime law that that the country has in place. The NSA last month told us that in 1 month 52 cases of violence were recorded, and this is still very far from the election, at least 2 months away from the election. So security agencies really need to be up and about to ensure that these acts of violence are dealt with decisively. And then the politicians, those that are contesting elections, they cannot caution their supporters enough. I expect that every opportunity they get, they should continue to impress it on their supporters that we want violence-free elections and we cannot do it by ourselves. If you are as much as you are supporting us to win, we also expect you to support us to live up to the peace accord that we signed. And I think that it's only in doing this that we can have peaceful elections. Otherwise, the atmosphere is quite tense, and something needs to be done. If not, we could just be heading into a violent election, which nobody prays or hopes for, because it won't augur well for the country in the long run.
The call is for the peace accord signed by the political parties in September to be upheld as the unfolding scenario where opposition parties deny opponents the use of state public facilities at the subnationals is counterproductive, undemocratic, and negates the peace accord.
One hopes that the peace committee will have to call all the major political parties together and drum up the support, or drum up the warning on why politicians to adhere to the Electoral Act, guidelines on campaigns and use of language and being against violence. And I think Nigerians too have a duty to play. Supporters are not helping matters. Some supporters are very vociferous in their responses, and you find this majorly online. So if politicians are doing that, we as their followers and supporters can mitigate what is happening among the political elite. And it is very important we do this to have a peaceful, credible and transparent process in 2023.
There has to be campaign against election criminality, political criminality and murder, so that Nigerians will be aware. Whoever that is an ad hoc staff or a staff of INEC or whoever that compromises his position is a political criminal, because he's operating outside the confines of the law. And whoever is a politician who will want to go and sponsor people to perpetrate violence is a murderer. And that person is not supposed to be allowed to operate. What we have seen all this while, people that perpetrate this political criminality and political murder, we've not heard that they are being prosecuted, we've not heard that they are being dealt with. And we've not seen a situation where the ordinary voter gets well informed about the provisions of the act that protects them and the punishments they are in. We are looking at a situation where the various institutions will tell us the arrangements they have to protect the integrity of the election from offenses and violence and crime being perpetrated.
Everybody needs to be focused, know what he wants. Number one, have your PVC, know the right person to vote for. If you are voting, don't allow anybody to carry you, don't allow anybody to tell you who to vote for and who not to vote for. Choose the right person and vote for him.
The deployment of technology, they insist, must cover the grassroots to ensure no Nigerian is disenfranchised. The need for a nexus between the people at the grassroots, taxing political parties on issues that will positively impact the economic development of voters was also emphasized. Support groups must conduct and express their support with decency and accountability, playing by the rules governing political engagements. Isaac David Michael insists that if the issues are adhered to by all political parties, then Nigerians and even non-Nigerians can be optimistic of a credible, hitch-free 2023 general elections.
Indeed, Lydia, the desire of everyone is for the 2023 elections to be hitch-free, and the disposition of political actors during the campaigns will go a long way to send the right signals for peaceful general elections. In our next report, Thomas Mitaire brings us up to speed on what Nigerians expect from the campaigns going forward.
The electioneering campaign for the 2023 general election is ongoing. The different political parties and their candidates have been coming up with their manifestos to convince Nigerians to vote for them at the polls. Already, some Nigerians are of the opinion that this electioneering cycle is better than the previous ones, even though it may not have met all the yearnings and aspirations of the people. They believe that there is more decorum across board.
While we cannot say that the campaigns have totally been free from mudslinging, it's a great departure from the past. You would see that in this electoral cycle, if anything at all, there's so much emphasis on things like town hall. There's so much emphasis on things like manifesto. Virtually, the top 5 or top 4 presidential candidates, for example, released a document which they've said Nigerians should hold them by. So when you look at it from that prism, that perspective, you will see that to a large extent, this electoral cycle has shown a lot of maturity in our political space. But there are issues here and there. You still see that some candidates in particular decide to throw jabs at their opponents. And when you look at it from that light, it's not been a very healthy. And then we've seen skirmishes of violence in some states. And then there's also been intolerance. We see some governors are not allowing other opponents or people they are opposed to campaign. They come up with ridiculous executive orders. You can't use a primary school, pay so amount, some exorbitant amount, just because they want to frustrate their opponents.
People are campaigning or talking to the electorate based on what they can deliver. It's a human thing that sometimes you can see friction.
Burning issues like insecurity, unemployment, banditry, kidnapping, and inflation, among others, may be well known to Nigerians. Nevertheless, political parties and their candidates are expected to tell the electorate exactly how they intend to practically solve each and every challenge.
We want people to come out and tell us how they intend to improve on security. Are you pursuing kinetic and non-kinetic policies? When you're talking about the economy, are you trying to see how to bridge a gap between the fiscal and monetary policies in ways and manner that it will bring an economy that will resonate with current interests of Nigerians? Are you expanding the space that would allow the youths to have more jobs to do? Are you improving on current infrastructure that will create opportunities for people and Nigerians generally? Are you trying to see how to improve on revenue earnings so that it can put less pressure on our debts and allow Nigerians to begin to benefit from opportunities that will come therein? These are the issues that I think we should continue to focus on and not take our eyes off the ball.
All of them are saying they will industrialize Nigeria. We understand. What are you doing with our rural populace? How are you going to improve on the rural areas? Our industries should not start from the city. Our industrialization should start from the rural, from the interiors. How are you going to open the feeder roads? What are you going to do to give them electricity? Differently from saying, I will go and build the dam, I'm going to put up a power generation. I think the world has surpassed that. What we want to hear from our politicians is that there are various means of generating electricity. Are we discarding, or are we going to put it vice versa? You have area you can do turbine. You have areas you can go into solar. You have area you can go into hydro. You have area you can go into winds. I'm not hearing that.
Another issue that has been dominant during the electioneering process is the level of awareness. Observers advocate the involvement of all stakeholders, including the political parties, in the awareness campaign. They emphasize the need to, as a matter of urgency, start sensitizing Nigerians on the details of the new Electoral Act, including the use of beavers and the place of technology in the general election. This, they say, will help gain the confidence of Nigerians and the international community, which will in turn aid credibility of the process.
Now, you have the beavers, the result could be electronically transmitted. And so those who thought they can easily rig the election before, they are now shifting, they are now knowing that now you have to work. So instead of just staying in one place, abusing people, abusing it, they are trying to work, because this is a new system. For the first time, people are believing that votes will count. And that is why it looks like there's a shift. But let us see let the election come, and then we'll know whether Nigerians have learned more or not.
Some others seem to be more concerned about the need for political parties and their candidates, as well as supporters, to imbibe the spirit of sportsmanship during and particularly after the elections by accepting the outcome of the poll. They are also expected to work with the winners to ensure the rapid socio-economic and political development of the country.
Anybody involved in this process of contesting should naturally have the spirit of sportsmanship. In other words, when you win, you win. When you lose, you lose. And you must accept the results, provided the will of the people is allowed to prevail.
I want to urge politicians that country first before you. National interest should guide their activities, utterances. If you have national interest and you believe that you are in a competition, and in that competition, one person must win.
So far, the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, has earned the commendation of Nigerians over its role in ensuring the strict implementation of the electoral guidelines. INEC was also called upon to ensure that no part of the Electoral Act is compromised.
I commend the efforts of the President for firstly signing the Electoral Act into law, because that itself has entrenched a new direction in our voting experience. Secondly, I want to commend the effort of the INEC chairman. So far, he has done very well. And I'm sure he wants to leave an enduring legacy to ensure that votes count, to ensure that people's will is allowed to prevail, to ensure that whatever comes out of any election will be the result of people's will. And so far, with the machinery they've put in place, I think rigging will be very difficult. And most importantly, like I said, the real game changer is this change in currency, which will make very little cash available. And for prospective contestants, it is about coming to sell yourself now, not about how much you can pay.
We also believe that the Yakubu-led INEC is doing well from the harassment. But we hope that when the election finishes, we'll not hear another story about them, because that is where we know how well they are doing. But so far, what they have put down, electronic transfer vote, beavers, removal of incidents for, so far they are doing well. I can say that this government, this present INEC, if they continue the way they are doing, the INEC chairman and other work, they would have written their name in gold. For 100 years, Nigeria will continue to remember them.
Some are also of the opinion that it is also time for those contesting for the position of the states and federal houses of assembly to be more engaged by the electorate and the media so that they could be held responsible for their electoral promises if elected.
This is the 9th assembly. The 10th assembly will be sworn in next year. What we need to do is to identify people, even if not in politics. We must identify who want to lead us. We must have a meaning of what leadership means.
Most of the people who you interview on the street, they are more interested about who become president. But the National Assembly is another critical area. You are going to elect 469 persons to the Senate and the House of Reps combined. Whoever you elect is likely to be an authoritarian. It's likely to be a despot in power if he does not have a solid National Assembly of effective lawmakers that can challenge whatever he is now, his action will be.
Campaigns and political activities for National Assembly offices and State Assembly offices are going on and going on very well. Of course, you would not expect to see much of it on national television because they are all local. So when you go to the local environment, you see activities going on for where elections are expected to hold. So between you and I, nobody has lost focus on that. And
there were high hopes that the 2023 general election will ultimately define the destiny of Nigeria positively.
It remains to be seen how much impact the electioneering campaigns will have on next year's general elections and how much of the campaign promises being bandied about now will be fulfilled. That's the much time will allow us on the program today. Be on the lookout next week for another interesting topic on 30 Minutes. I am Mitaire Ikpen. Bye for now.